Hey friends, so I'm doing my video today, my Unis Honest tribute. Um, this video a year ago today, Unis Honest made a video called We Took an IQ Test, and it was an interesting video. It was good. The boys, I think, either each took an IQ test or took it together. I'm not certain which. I feel like Mark may have taken it separately than Ethan, and maybe got a higher score. But they also, one thing that I think was very important about this video was I think they talked about how IQ tests are flawed and putting a number on somebody's like intelligence is kind of like a messed up concept personally, I think. And I'm gonna kind of like talk a little bit, I guess, scattered. I've been kind of mulling over this over the past few hours, and I have a lot of thoughts about like IQ tests and stuff. So yeah, I think the boys did a good job, a good job of making a good video based off of this idea. And yeah, I can't remember if they took, yeah, like as as a unit or separately. But I feel like if Ethan did it separately, like maybe he didn't do as well. Maybe I'm thinking of a future video as well. That's the thing. My memory's a little tricky on this. I don't have a clear cut memory of this IQ test, but I think that they definitely emphasize the idea of like, yeah, it's a measuring tool that's trying to be objective, but also it's so specific of like what it's measuring. And honestly, I mean, like, I'd have to look into it, but I'm pretty sure the origins or the development of IQ tests is very. I think it's like the way that they were designed was either designed um, with like a lack of attention to diversity in different sorts of folks, or maybe it was even rooted in white supremacy. I'm not entirely certain. I remember one of my friends said they had taken an IQ test for like some college study. They weren't even feeling that well. They had like a fever or something. They took this IQ test and they distinctly remember it like asking details about like Jane Austen's novels. And it's like, if you haven't read those, then of course you wouldn't know this question that's supposed to be this objective measurement of your intelligence. Like, I just personally have a big moral quandary with trying to label a quality of a human being with a number, or trying to reduce like the the amazing, like, not detail, but the uniqueness of a human being, the personality and the attributes of a human to just a number. I think that some numbers can be useful in some ways, like I mean, I hesitate to say, like, things like weight or age. I mean, those also, like, they have like their applications in medical sciences, but at the same time, like, they kind of have to be taken with a grain of salt, and there has to be more context than just, hey, here's this human being with this number ascribed to them. And I think, I don't know, like, I feel like a lot of us just feel like a number, feel like a statistic, or feel like, I remember feeling very much over the last few years like I'm just a number. I'm my employee number, or my social security number, or my phone number, or, a number in a line, like just not feeling like a human, just feeling like a number. And I don't know. For me, I know this kind of, I'm kind of getting out of range here, but I just I have a little bit of a qualm of ascribing somebody's intelligence to it, because also I think like uh Mark and Ethan talked a little bit, like, I think Ethan, he's pretty open about like he has ADD or ADHD or something, and like I feel like some of those tests are not very kind or forgiving to people with different neurodiversity of that nature, or of other sorts and types. And like, So I don't know. I was debating like looking into IQ tests or maybe taking one myself just for the heck of this video, but A, it's late and I have work again tomorrow morning. But also like I just I don't know, man. Like it doesn't interest me. I remember like when I was younger, my brother used to like say something about how his IQ was a certain number, but that he would say that, oh well, but my IQ is lower. Like I can't remember the numbers. Is like he said his IQ was 146, but mine was 126 or something. And he'd be like, oh, your IQ is probably still above average, but mine's better. And he would like make a point about it, which is just like, I don't think that and like hey, like my brother's like definitely like chilled out since, but like it was a very strange thing growing up with this idea that like this idea of me being more intelligent but still not as intelligent as somebody else, and like for somebody else to try to make a point of that, it's just it's not a pleasant feeling, it's not a necessary feeling. I still to this day I don't think I've ever taken an IQ test. I was a fairly good student, and I mean, funny enough, like what, regardless of whatever our IQs were, my brother didn't graduate from college, but I did. I mean, but also, does that speak to our intelligence or just to my, maybe privilege or my determination or, I think it just really stressed my brother out to go to school, which is also completely acceptable and totally valid. So, like, like what are we measuring people with a number like that? I don't know. I would be interested to see if ever been any usefulness from trying to do anything of an IQ test. You know what I mean? Like, it just seems like a weird, dicey way to try to categorize people, and I don't think it's a necessary thing. I think I've met some people who, might not be like classically or traditionally intelligent or whatever, but are incredible people, like super nice people, great people to hang out with. Or like honestly, I remember in my acting classes like being told that sometimes like or maybe it's like a story in one of my acting books or something about people who like are kind of simple-minded or considered like sort of unintelligent but are incredible actors because they don't have to overanalyze like every damn thing they do. Like I feel like I struggle with that a lot. I'm always stumble over myself with any sort of improv or even in these videos I struggle with being able to articulate myself quickly because I'm so concerned about being perfectly clear or as detailed as I'd like it to be. The only other thing that like I kind of think about when I think of IQ is like kind of the bullshit of people like the toxic fan base of Rick and Morty. Hey, I love Rick and Morty, the TV show, but like there's like you see these posts and you wonder if it's just a troll or if it's an actual human being. They'll say things like, "My IQ is this," and "I won't date a woman that has a IQ higher than me," or like they'll say weird stuff like that, and it's like this is so unnecessary. Like, why is that important to you? Like, it's such a strange thing. And I don't know, like, I've been called intelligent and I've been called, and well, I don't know if I've really been called dumb, but I've been made to feel dumb by the way some people have treated me before. So honestly, like, yeah, it feels nice to be called smart, but it really doesn't feel nice to be kind of on the opposite feeling of that, of somebody kind of treating you as if they think you're stupid. I think that's so unnecessary. And I don't know. I just, like, I get it. Like, we can't all be winners in this life and things, but I don't know. I think, like, how to measure your intelligence. There are so many different kinds of intelligence. I think that there's definitely like book smarts, street smarts, people talk about a lot, but also I think like emotional intelligence is a sort of thing, if that makes sense. I remember one of my friends like vouching for me when I was in like a kind of toxic relationship and saying like, I don't know if that person has the emotional intelligence to really grasp and understand you. And I'm very grateful. Hey, I have some wonderful people in my life now that I feel understand me better, in an emotional sort of sense, and also in like in an intellectual or sort of conceptual sort of sense as well. So I don't know. Like I think there's a lot going on there. I think Unis Honest did a good job of doing the thing and kind of tackling the subject and discussing the complexities of it pretty quickly. Of like, it's a little tricky to try to put a number like on what metric, and I think it's important to continually ask and question these sort of systems we have in place, because maybe we'll see some of them go by the wayside, just like I'm sure there are old antiquated systems that we no longer use because they just aren't useful or functional in our society, and I think that's perfectly okay. I just think it's an interesting thing. Yeah, like an IQ test, it's never anything that's like really, put in school, but you can find a million of them online. And yeah, by what metric? Well, what are they measuring really? Um, and I think I guess like the main takeaway I want to say is I think it's more important than to worry about some number, to more focus on developing people's like critical thinking skills. I think that that's a really important thing we need to be doing more in society, is for people to learn and know how to think and how to think for themselves and how to analyze information and how to see something and say, okay, well, this is a fact, or this does not seem to align with what's actually happening, or like so many things are going on in our society and in our world right now, and I think it's important that we um, more focus on being able to analyze that and think about that in a greater conceptual sense, or also to question it, and not just take stuff at face value, not believe just anything we see on the internet or on TV, but also to understand if something is being reported from multiple sources and there is evidence, to also take that into consideration. And also to, I think another important thing with critical thinking is to be able to understand and come to terms with something that might not align with your values, or something that is new information that maybe defies what you had previously believed or felt. I think that's really, really important. I remember the Oatmeal actually does a really good comic on something called the backfire effect. I would recommend Googling backfire effect Oatmeal comic, and you can look into that. And it's kind of this interesting idea of like, he talks about George Washington's teeth. We all know he had a fake set of chompers, right? And he kind of asks, well, what if I told you that he also had a set of chompers that was like hippo teeth and a whole like just set of zoological nightmares in his mouth? And how does that make you feel? And take kind of a emotional gauge of that. And what if then I told you he also had a set of chompers made of human slave teeth? And how do you feel about that? And if that makes you feel angry because like he's a patriot, or like, no, of course that can't be true, it's George Washington, like this, like you have to, like there are historians and there are sources that say that was true. So we need to be able to come to terms with those sorts of things that are maybe uncomfortable truths as well. Anyways, big rambly thing. I'm just going to post this and call it a night, but I'll see you guys tomorrow.